West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags and we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please. All right, here we go on a Tuesday, July 7th. Hello, everybody. Great to see you, and welcome to the Bill Press Show. Here we go, ready to bring you the news of the day this Tuesday on many different fronts, here on Free Speech TV and worldwide on our video stream, Talker TV. Good to have you with us, and don't forget, you are part of the program, so give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Let us know what you think about the issues of the day, or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Feel the burn. Yes, indeed. Bernie Sanders continues his barnstorming tour across the United States. 7,500 people, a record crowd up in Portland, Maine last night. And the Clinton campaign telling the world yesterday for the first time that they are worried about the Bernie and expect him to win in Iowa and maybe even New Hampshire. Down in Columbia, South Carolina, good news. The South Carolina State Senate voting overwhelmingly yesterday, 37-3, to take down the Confederate flag from the State House grounds. Now it's up to the House of Representatives to do the right thing. They will debate it later in the week. In Vienna, today is the deadline for reaching that nuclear agreement with Iran. They will not meet the deadline, but they're getting closer and closer, according to Secretary of State John Kerry, so they'll just keep on talking, which is what they should do. President Obama at the Pentagon yesterday saying after 5,100 airstrikes against ISIS targets, 1,950 of them in Syria, he says we are making progress against ISIS, but it's going to take a long time. And Bill Cosby admits that he was out getting drugs in order to give them to women so he could have sex with them. What a disgusting human being. That's it for today. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Good to have you on board.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
All personnel will wear the proper protective equipment. This includes all personnel identified as staff, role players, VIPs, and support staff. Face, eyes, throat, and chronic infection is mandatory and should be worn at all times by personnel directly involved in or near the scenario. Always check your mask prior to use to ensure there are no cracks and the mask is in safe working condition.
Should I put the water in there now? Yeah, go ahead. This is like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah.
Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me.
Help me. Shoot your hands. Help me. Shoot your hands. Back away.
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Just get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy?
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94. There was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus. And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place. So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
Okay. And it's something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street.
Depends.
Or
I mean,
like
a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else.
Yeah.
That we might be faced with, and that's what's great about Urban Shield is we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
He does it again. Bernie Sanders, 7,500 people out in Portland last night. And the Clinton campaign tells the world yesterday they're a little worried about Bernie. They ought to be. What do you say? Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Tuesday, July 7th. The Bill Press Show. Booming out to you nationwide, all across this great land of ours. Starting out here in Washington, D.C., and our studio on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building, where the House and the Senate are back in session today. Don't know what they're going to accomplish, if anything, but at least they're back in town, which makes things a little more lively around here. We'll tell you all about it. We'll tell you what's going on both at the Capitol and at the White House, around the rest of the country, and around the globe. Your one-stop shop for all the news of the day, and your place to sound off on the news of the day. And you know how to do so. Just give us a call. Whether you're listening on your local Progressive Talk radio station, whether you're listening on iHeartRadio or the TuneIn app, both of them free, download them. Whether you're watching on Free Speech TV in this nation or somewhere around the globe, hello, Ethiopia.
We know y'all are out there.
Yes, you are out there. Zambia, Iceland.
Yeah.
There they are.
I need an internet connection.
Give us a call or send us your comments on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, hello.
Hello, Bill.
Hey,
here we are.
Good morning.
With Jamie Benson here on the phones, ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Cyprian's still out. Monty Kanzler here again today, doing a great job as our videographer. Well, at least so far today. We're just getting started.
Yeah, look, plenty of time to screw this. Plenty of time to screw this up.
Plenty of time to screw it up, like Cyprian normally does. We could talk about him when he's not here.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't we?
Yeah.
He's not here.
I want the Cyprian vacation
Fair
schedule,
game.
by the way.
By the way, I'd like it too.
Seriously.
Get the month of July off.
Mm-hmm. Right. So my favorite story of the day yesterday, I forgot to mention this, but anyhow, I just couldn't believe this. So it's a little sad in one sense. Okay. It's about a guy who died. All right.
Okay.
Boyd Packer is his name. Never heard of him. But he's a big shot Mormon, was.
Okay.
He was head of the Mormon Council of Elder, or they think I call him the Council of 12 Apostles or something like that. He's the head of it.
Yeah. Something big and fancy.
So he died 90 years old. He had a good long life. Okay. So this guy, he did a lot to keep the Mormon faith going.
Yeah?
I read his obituary yesterday in the New York Times. All right? Mr. Packer had 10 children.
Man, that's a lot of kids.
Yeah. Mr. Packer had 60 grandchildren.
Yo.
Wow.
10 kids, 60 grandkids. Mr. Packer had 103 great-grandchildren.
Holy cow.
Man, talk about Thanksgiving dinner. Jesus.
Good God.
Imagine that. Yeah.
Oof.
Oof. No, we have our little family reunion, We got 5 grandkids, 2 boys, 2 sons. That's 11 of us. We have to rent a pretty big house when we go on vacation. Jesus. Wait, 10, 60, 70, 173, and him and his wife, 175 people?
That makes Mitt Romney's family look small.
It does.
Yeah, right.
No,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah, we all thought.
Imagine going out to dinner.
We all thought Mitt, was the rap.
Packer, a party of 175.
Yes. Yeah, right.
I'll need the whole restaurant
Call him
tonight, please.
Packer.
Isn't that amazing?
Man, that's crazy.
Wow. What a legacy. I'm telling you. When I read that, I just couldn't believe it. I did. Right.
10 kids, a lot of kids, but the fact that those kids were as fruitful as he was, and their kids were as fruitful as they were, boy, oh boy.
Yeah. And 5,032 great-great-great-grandchildren.
Yeah.
All right.
A lot of little Packers running around.
They're going to rename it the Packer Church.
Yeah, right, man.
I'll tell you. All right.
Grief.
Man, we got it coming up here. Arthur Delaney coming up. He's back in town. So is Igor Volsky. Igor hasn't left, but they'll both be along. So will Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund a little bit later, and President J. David Cox of the American Federation of Government Employees. Big news out of South Carolina. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. So yesterday, I told you the story about Jason Pierre-Paul. There you go. Get your cocktail mixed up there for the morning. I told you about Jason Pierre-Paul. He's the guy that plays football for the New York Football Giants.
Yeah.
He hurt his hand in a fireworks
the idiot
accident.
who was setting fireworks.
Yeah, he was setting off fireworks, and he hurt his hand. Severe burns. He had to go to the hospital about it. Well, the New York Giants, they didn't like that story, and they're worried about how well he's going to be able to perform. So yesterday, they withdrew their long-term $60 million contract offer that they had already made to him because they are worried about how good he's going to be. There are varying reports on how bad the injury is, right?
Dumbass.
So they don't know if it's really bad or career-threatening. But in the meantime, they had made this offer to him, and he hadn't signed it yet before he started playing with fireworks.
Gosh.
So since he hurt his hand, they said, well, we don't know how good you're going to be, so we are pulling that offer.
$60 million?
$60 million long-term, $6 million long-term contract would have set them up
for the thrill of setting off a firecracker.
Yeah.
people
Stupid, man.
Are just so damn dumb.
Sign that contract. Sign that contract. Today's the day. If you
Was he playing without a helmet?
You might as well. Might as well. Today's the day. If you want to try a new version of Oreo cookies, they are called Oreo Thins. Oreo Thins. Now, here's the deal.
Get it.
Here's the deal. If you get an original Oreo cookie, the cookie itself is 12.5 millimeters thick. These new Oreo Thins are only 7.5 millimeters thick. So there's less cookie, and then in the middle, there's less filling. So they're saying that
What's the point?
Well, so there are fewer calories, and if you want to eat, if you're the type of person who just eats one Oreo, which
who?
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to meet that person.
Eating one potato chip.
Right. But they're saying that you can have an Oreo cookie with your afternoon tea, and there are less calories in it. They're quick to point out, by the way, that this is not a diet option. They want.
Oh, so this is for the afternoon tea eating, like Oreo eating person.
Yeah.
No. Look.
Look.
You eat Oreos or you don't eat Oreos, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you really, I over the weekend up with our nephews up in Rhode Island, they had double cream. What do they call
Double
it?
stuff.
Double stuff Oreos, dude.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Those are good.
Heaven
Those
on
are
earth,
super
right?
good.
But seriously, you either eat Oreos or you don't.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree with you. There's a new study that took a look at eating fast food versus eating food in a high-end restaurant. And you might be surprised to find out that eating in high-end restaurants, that good homemade food, is actually worse for you in terms of caloric intake. The average meal at a fine dining restaurant tends to be about 200 calories more than actually fast food restaurants. So if you go get that Big Mac and fries, you might be just a health nut instead of going out and... Don't go eat Big Macs and fries.
No.
That was a joke.
No.
But if you think that you're eating any better by eating out, you're not. There's the number one culprit here is butter. They use so much butter in restaurant kitchens. And a lot of things that you might not think are fried in restaurant kitchens.
Right.
So.
Not to mention the booze.
Well, the booze.
Oh, yes.
Which you're not getting.
But this just look at the food. This just
Uh-huh.
look at the food. So the food itself is actually worse for you.
All right, there's your food report for the day. Yes.
Eat an Oreo thin afterwards. You'll feel better about yourself.
No. Go for the double stuff. Here we go. Yes, indeed. Big news out of South Carolina yesterday. We know after that tragic mass murder at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston a couple of weeks ago. The governor of South Carolina led the charge in saying, all right, that young lunatic, mass killer, was inspired by the Confederate flag. It is a symbol of hatred, of racial hatred in particular, and it is time, said Governor Nikki Haley, as well as the President of the United States, to take that flag down. It was up to the South Carolina legislature to act, and yesterday the state Senate took up that issue. We talked about it yesterday morning here on the show and said we thought that the Senate would just want to put this thing behind them pretty fast, and they did, voting 37-3 to remove the Confederate flag. Not to put it somewhere else on the State House grounds, to take it down once and for all and consign it to the Museum of the Confederacy, which also exists in Columbia, by the way. But we have to say it did not go without a fight. One of the three, the state senator Lee Bright, representing really the worst of the South, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the guy that we referenced yesterday that said if there was going to be a fight, this is the guy that was going to put it up.
This is the guy who was going to lead it. He didn't get many followers, of course, but he did say, hey, blame that kid. Don't blame me.
We're placing the blame of what one deranged lunatic did on people that hold their Southern heritage high, and I don't think that's fair.
There it is. Heritage. Got to get in the heritage line. It's not hate, it's heritage.
I have to point out, and I know that this is very cosmetic, there are so many cartoonish accents that came out of this debate that I heard when I was watching some of this stuff yesterday.
It's very entertaining, I must admit.
That those of you that didn't grow up in the South think that we all talk like that. So I hate to see when one of them actually does, but it is Foghorn Leghorn on display.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he is. So then he tries very, not so cleverly, right? He tries to change this debate from a debate about the flag to a debate about values, meaning same-sex marriage.
I heard our president sing a religious hymn, and then Friday night, I watched the White House be lit up in the abomination colors.
Abomination colors.
It's time. We've got Amazing Grace. We've got people in the stands here of faith. It is time for the church to rise up. It's time for the state of South Carolina to rise up. Romans chapter 1 is clear. The Bible is clear. This nation was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and they are under assault by men in black robes who were not elected by you.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. We better make a stand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What I'd like to see is these folks that are working as in the positions that are dealing with these marriage certificates not to have to betray their faith or compromise their faith in order to subject themselves to the tyranny of 5 judges.
Oh, tyranny. Supreme Court judges. Tyranny.
He fit a lot in there, man.
Didn't he fit a lot in? But notice how he starts. Suddenly, he's not talking about guns. No. He's not talking about the flag. He's talking about Romans 1.
The abomination
colors. Yeah. And so he says, again, we'll be a nation gone under. And he said, then he talks about this. Here it is again. Man, it is so deviant behavior.
I know how people feel of all colors about this. And I know that we need to respect our brother and love our brother, but we cannot respect this sin in the state of South Carolina. So I'm asking you to open up the sine die and let's deal with marriage. If we're not going to find some way to push back against the federal government like our forefathers did, or push back against a tyrannical government like the founders of this nation did, let's at least not put these citizens in South Carolina in a position where they've got to choose between their faith and their jobs. So,
I mean, that I've got to tell you, that rhetoric, right? He's talking about, do you notice the phrase, we got to rise up.
Rise up.
Rise up.
Yeah, I caught that.
I mean, isn't that what John Calhoun said, right? We got to push back. We have to push back against this tyrannical government.
Government.
I'm sorry.
Please,
right? Government.
please.
But that is right out of,
It really is, man.
right? The rhetoric that launched the Civil War.
He wants a new Civil War.
He wants a new Civil War based on same-sex marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so, again, totally forgetting the flag. Maybe he knew he had lost that battle, but I think what he's trying to do is just stir up some more hatred. Yeah. And so they say, oh, the government can't, we're not going to let them get away with that. That was Senator Lee Bright down there. He did not carry the day. But what do you think? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. Is this the end of the Confederate flag? Now it's up to the House of Representatives. I don't know when they have scheduled their vote. I don't think they have yet. But it's not for certain that they will follow the lead of the state Senate. But I think they have to.
Yeah, I do too.
They've got to. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. The beginning of the end of the Confederate flag, despite all the bile spewed by Senator Lee Bright down in South Carolina yesterday. What do you think? What's going on? 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Silicon Valley, Santa Clara County is often portrayed as a role model for the rest of the country. The county has some of the highest salaries and most expensive real estate in America, thanks in large part to the phenomenal success of tech companies such as Google, Yahoo, Intel, Adobe, and of course Apple, the nation's wealthiest and most profitable company. But Santa Clara County also has a more unseemly distinction. I'm standing near downtown San Jose, inside what is by some accounts the largest homeless encampment in America. The Jungle, as it's known, occupies a 65-acre stretch of creek where about 300 people live in makeshift structures. It's less of a homeless encampment than a full-blown shantytown.
This being the largest homeless encampment in the United States, and us having Silicon Valley with Steve Jobs and all this cash, we're not supposed to have this kind of homeless problem. You know what I mean?
I done been shot with a pellet gun like 4 times, attacked with baseball bats, my house set on fire.
This is like hell on earth. I mean, this is like something you will not see, you have to see to believe, actually. It's like fourth world conditions.
Hi, have you ever heard of a place called the Jungle?
Sorry?
A place called the Jungle, have you heard of it?
We're not making enough money really for conventional homes or housing, and we make too much money for subsidized homes. So we're kind of, floating between the oil and the water.
We told the landlady here if it would be possible to continue staying here. She said, no, you got to go. I already rented it out. We went and loaded things into a storage facility, and it's still there. And all the campgrounds and things that we saw were too far out of the city, like KOAs and that sort of thing. So what we decided to do was to move into the Jungle. So that's what we did.
A few days ago, a woman named Lydia Hernandez was robbed inside of her tent. When she refused to hand over the money, the robbers slit her throat. When she still fought back, they bashed her head with an axe. She died a few hours later. Residents say that the police never come into the Jungle, so they have to fend for themselves.
There's no law down there except our own, right? There's no law. So we could smoke dope all day in the open. The dope dealers ain't scared because they're secure.
We go to the Fairmont Hotel and have a brunch or do a philanthropy. That's not going to cut it. We need billions of dollars to go into the inner cities and go into the jungle. Silicon Valley, the Bay Area is known for its innovation, its progressive thinking. It's one of the most progressive pockets in the United States, if not the world, and certainly one of the wealthiest. If we can't do it here, it won't happen anywhere. It's got to happen here.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 25 minutes after the hour. Yes, indeed, the spotlight again on South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. This time the state capitol yesterday, where the state senate voted 37-3 to take down the Confederate flag. We must say, sorry to focus so much on Senator Lee Bright, whom we knew would lead the charge to try to keep the flag up. Because, remember, the vote was 37-3 among those who led the fight to take it down. Co-sponsored the legislation, the Senator Vincent Shaheen.
One thing I think we all should agree on by now is that this is a symbol, regardless of what you believe it means, that divides us. And we can't afford to be divided anymore.
Right. Well spoken.
That sums up the whole issue.
It really does. Right. So don't get into what's the stand for you, what's the stand for you, whatever. Just say, look, this,
it does divide.
It does divide, and that for that reason alone, good to take it down. You know, Peter, it's good having you here in the studio from South Carolina, but we can't talk about South Carolina without saying hello to our buddy Ike down in Charleston. Hello, Ike. What's up?
Ike?
Hey, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you there, Pete.
I'm coming down there tomorrow. Let's get together.
Make sure you bring a tape recorder and you can interview me. That way we can put the tab on Bill. But listen, in all seriousness, you need to go back and look at the quote from the man that designed that flag, and he said it was to show a superior white race. That's what it was about. It's the battle flag, okay? Also, too, you need to look at what Robert E. Lee said at Appomattox. He said, fold it up and put it away. At the time that Lee was buried, he said that he wanted no Confederate flags and no men in Confederate uniforms at his burial.
No kidding.
He completely disowned it. And also, too, one other thing, Bill, look it up. We're flying the American battle flag. That's what everybody's used to seeing. There's actually a peacetime flag that we never have flown because we're never at peace. So people misunderstand all this, but I got to tell you, anything that moves the South forward and gets you all to quit looking down your nose, because I've met racists in Boston, Connecticut, and all over this country. I got to tell you, you're no better than we are, brother.
I take that from a friend. Yes, indeed, and thank you. And you guys have a good time down there. You're going to Charleston tomorrow?
Yeah, that's right.
You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, I did.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I'm heading down there. Yes, sir.
Wait a minute. Elisa, did I approve this vacation?
I don't know. I know you approved Cyprian's, but I don't know about Peter.
I remember signing the paperwork for Cyprian's.
Yeah, I'm going to head down there. Ike and I are going to get together.
All right.
I'll let you know how it goes.
That's trouble.
I hope you get together at the Snob.
You know it.
Slightly north of Broad. All right.
Sir.
Hey, we'll be back with Arthur Delaney,
This
Huffingtonpost.
is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? You gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Akai Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I can just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, sitting together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earth-alleluia.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, you got it 33 minutes after the hour now. Tuesday, July 7th. You know what that means? And I know all of the Arthur Delaney fans, you had a hard time last week surviving without him. But he's back from the beach and back here on The Bill Press Show from Huffingtonpost. Arthur Delaney. Hello, Arthur. Good to see you.
Great to be back.
All right. And we limped along somehow without you last week. So
you had a short week, didn't you? Didn't you take a day off?
No, the country took a day off.
Okay.
Friday.
Aren't we in the country
That's
right
what
now?
I mean. Yeah. The entire country, not just me, took a day off.
We had
on
a
Friday.
full celebration on Thursday.
Full celebration.
I saw photos of that.
The 10th anniversary.
Congratulations.
On Friday, we were with some friends over the beach, and one of our friends got a call from her brother, lives in Colorado, and he said, "You're not going to believe this. I just turned on my TV, and Bill Press is drinking a martini." That was our Friday show. We had 3 martinis in the third hour. I want you to know.
That's 9 a.m.?
It was 8:30. Come on.
Okay.
We had champagne at 6 a.m. and we had some screwdrivers later on throughout the show.
Well, that's an innovation. The 3 martini breakfast.
You're right. That's a whole new thing.
They were mini martinis, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right.
They were tiny.
They were small ones.
So I thought of you when I heard this little clip here. Senator Bernie Sanders setting the world on fire. After big crowds in Council Bluffs, Iowa, Madison, Wisconsin. He's up in Portland, Maine last night, 7,500 people. And he talks about a problem we've talked about here with you. Here's Bernie.
For young people who have graduated high school or dropped out of high school who are between the ages of 17 and 20. If they happen to be white, unemployment rate is 33%. If they are Hispanic, unemployment rate is 36%. If they are African American, real unemployment rate for young people is 51%.
Pretty shocking numbers, but right, correct?
Yeah, not going to college or getting any college at all, even community college, really, you wind up in a worse off position in life, basically, and high unemployment. Right, when you're young still is just part of that. It goes on and on. The unemployment rate for college grads broadly, everybody, it's like 3%. It's hardly anybody, basically.
Yeah.
And the people who are unemployed are often just going between jobs.
So is this because jobs are not available, or they can't afford college, or they're just dropouts, or what?
Well, it's not necessarily that they're all looking for jobs and not able to get them. I mean, it's partly that they're just younger and not fully in the job market. But it really is the lack of education and experience working against you, making you much more likely to be unemployed when you're young and you haven't come out of college. Even when you're fresh out of college, the unemployment rates are still higher.
Yeah, right.
So you're getting your feet wet in the job market and you have no experience. It's more difficult to get started, but that goes away as you get older. But it's really dramatic when you haven't even done any higher education.
And it seems to me that not to do a broad brush here, but there's a direct line or potential direct line between this high unemployment and lack of job opportunities and kids getting in trouble and kids ending up in prison.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. It's not helpful for any socioeconomic thing to have high unemployment among a segment of the population. It's bad.
And Bernie just said in his remarks, we're turning our back on these young people and not providing them opportunities. On the job numbers, new job numbers coming out last Friday, what did they show for month of June?
They showed pretty strong job growth with 220,000 jobs and the average job growth above 200,000 for the past quarter. And that's good.
Yeah.
But
and the unemployment ticked down.
The unemployment rate
bit,
went down from 5.5 to 5.3, and hooray! That's that makes a happy headline. But this is one of those times where you don't celebrate it too much because a lot of people exited the workforce, and that means they told the researchers who call 60,000 households every month.
Is that what this is based on?
Yeah, a massive survey. When you hear a political polling survey, it's about 1,000 people.
Yeah, right.
This is 60,000 people, so it's major quality, as Donald Trump would say. And so the questions, they don't say, "Are you unemployed?" They ask a series of questions like, "Have you looked for work in the past 4 weeks? Do you want work?" And if you haven't looked for work in the past 4 weeks, you don't count as unemployed. They say you might be a discouraged worker or something like that, but you're not contributing to this headline number that is the unemployment rate. 400,000 fewer people were counted as unemployed, and that corresponded with a large drop in the number of long-term unemployed. So it suggested that there were a significant number of workers who had been out of work a long time and gave up on trying to get a job.
Is this 220,000 seasonal? I mean, or these permanent jobs?
Well, no.
Do we know?
This is a number where they know what happens.
It goes up in warmer weather, doesn't it? Because of construction
weird weather can throw a monkey wrench in this, but in general, seasonal trends don't affect it. It is called seasonally adjusted because the researchers know what happens basically at certain times of the year, and they move it up or down to adjust for that, so that the number should only reflect the change from what's normal.
All right. Now, the big economic news everybody's been worried about, and yesterday at the White House briefing, the questions dominated the briefing about questions about Greece.
Yeah.
And I think, what everybody wants to know is this going to impact my 401k here in the United States? There's so many levels of this. What's going to happen to Greece? What's going to happen to the euro? What's going to happen to the eurozone? But I think but most people will care about it. What's going to happen to my 401k? Let's forget how we solved the Greece problem for a second. Maybe we'll get back to that. But what's the impact on U.S. investors, the U.S. economy? Any?
Well, I'm not an investment advisor. People shouldn't take financial advice from me. But my understanding is that in general, global turmoil is unhelpful for your 401k. So
I think that's a good place to start.
So if all you want is for things to just be stable and for financial chaos not to happen, the situation should be concerning. That said, I don't think it's gonna, we're not gonna have runs at the ATM over here or anything like that they're experiencing there in Greece. But it's not favorable for your 401k. Let's say that.
Yeah, I was just checking. I mean, they expected a real run on the market. Yes, I never even I didn't pay attention.
You're trying to get your bank account?
No, I was just looking to see where the Dow ended up yesterday. So it was down 46 points, but it still ended at over 17,000. I mean, so it was a baby drop in the Dow. Same thing with the NASDAQ was down 17. But
yeah, I mean, if you're keeping score by the stock market, it's true that it goes up and down for emotional reasons.
Right.
Of investors.
People were saying over the weekend, oh boy, when that opens on Monday, it's going to be a real dive. But it wasn't. So I think people recognize, okay, breathe easy.
Yeah, but in general, I think that's a tough way. That's not a very great proxy for what's going on, like in our economy or in Europe's.
So now, it's a headline in both the Washington Post and the New York Times today, the lead story. What happens? I mean, this is a country, right, that's basically gone bankrupt. Do we just bail them out?
Well, they had a referendum on a debt relief and austerity proposal that it isn't clear if it even still exists because of changes in the government that had happened since it was put forward. But anyway, the leaders in Greece said, vote no to send a signal to Europe that we don't like their deal. Because they've been under Eurozone bailout proposal for the past 5 years, and it's been terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's been tough to understand because a lot of the coverage just says it's austerity and it's a bailout. So it's those two things, but it doesn't say what it is. So it's money to help to keep Greek banks solid, to help the government keep running. And the austerity is things like cuts for pensioners, raising the retirement age, reducing the minimum wage. And it's had a disastrous effect on the Greek economy. Thousands of people have become homeless. And now it's just continuing. And so essentially what they're saying is, do you want to keep doing this? And the answer in that referendum was no.
Right.
And the idea being that now the leaders in Greece can take this result to Europe and have a stronger bargaining position.
And say, you've got to give us a better deal.
You got to give us some debt relief.
Yeah.
And whatever conditions we agree to will be more favorable to us because, look, the people are fed up with what we've been getting. And it's Germany, which was the biggest Greek creditor, and the other countries that are involved in these decisions are basically not very sympathetic. So what investors, again, are saying, it's a toss-up. Will Greece leave the Eurozone, and will and thus ending the experiment in this European Union for that country? But it's really not clear what happens next. The White House is just saying, well, let you guys figure it out. We would like for Greece to remain in the Eurozone, but we're not going to intervene. And I don't think anyone really knows what will happen.
Well, I have to tell you, at the news conference with President Rousseff from Brazil, when President Obama was asked about this, boy, he could have. It was the whole impression, right, was that he could have cared less. He said, yeah, I've talked to Angela Merkel. I talked to President Hollande about it, but, and we promised to give them whatever help we can. It's up to them to figure it out. And meanwhile, don't worry about it. I mean, yeah, basically, that was his answer.
Yeah, like I don't think it's going to tank your 401k.
Right, which is a message he's got to send. Arthur Delaney here from Huffingtonpost on a wide range of economic issues affecting the middle class, affecting you here in this country. Any questions, any comments, any complaints?
Please complain.
Complain he wasn't here last week. 866-55-PRESS, our toll-free number. Right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 11 minutes now before the top of the hour. Igor Volsky, the other half of our Tuesday twin duo here, will be up at the top of the next hour. Arthur Delaney here from Huffington Post, HuffingtonPost.com. We started talking, Arthur, about Bernie lamenting the high unemployment rate, about young people just getting out of high school and not going on to college. Pretty shocking numbers. Rick has a comment from, or a question from up in Erie, Pennsylvania. Hey, Rick.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, good. What's up?
Well, I think that there has to be some kind of distinguishing point here between people that don't go to college because they're unmotivated and therefore they will be unmotivated to go into the workforce, or because, I believe that if I was going through the school system today, I would have been diagnosed with some kind of learning disability, and I tried college. It didn't work for me. I have worked 2 and 3 jobs my whole life. And now I'm underemployed, 60 years old. There's got to be some kind of distinguishing point here.
You mean between people who really, for whatever reason, don't decide not to go to college and go directly into the workforce?
Well, let's not make it like it's people are just deciding not to go. It's disproportionately poorer people who don't go to college.
Right.
It's disproportionately rich people who succeed when they do go to college. So there's a whole lot of class differences that also probably account for the higher unemployment that feed into whether or not a kid winds up in college. So it's one of several things that's not gonna. Not having a college degree is probably just one of several things that will not be advantageous when instead of going to college, you're then looking for work. And that has a lot to do with how rich your parents were. So we don't want to make it sound like, man, these kids are lazy, because Rick makes a strong point. That is definitely not what is going on here. There's not like just entire generations blowing off a chance to get ahead. It's because they don't have the resources, and then that compounds itself after they wind up in the job market and can't find work.
I'm sure they don't have the... Thanks, Rick, for the call. Appreciate that. I think it's a valid point, right? There is a distinction that's got to be made. But as you say, a variety of factors. The economic one is the biggest, is number one. I guess the second one is like motivation, right?
Yeah, and if your family doesn't have money, you can't pay for college, or maybe you don't want to take on crushing student debt. And if you grew up in a poor family, maybe you can't get into college. So there's a lot of stuff going on here that puts different classes of Americans on different tracks in life, and it's not like they're just taking a fork in the road when it's time to decide whether to go to college.
All right. Now, speaking about America going bankrupt, this story caught my attention. I have to ask you.
America's going bankrupt?
Starbucks, as of today, is raising prices again, up to 5 to 20 cents for every drink at Starbucks.
Well, why are they doing that? I mean, is it because of coffee beans getting more expensive, or are they just like,
you know what?
People are suckers. They're already standing in line.
That's my answer. That is my answer.
Good
That's
for you,
answer.
Starbucks.
That people will go to Starbucks and pay these outrageous prices.
No doubt.
At Starbucks.
This is to
just
pay
because it's Starbucks.
I'm sure a huge wage increase is in the works, and it's to cover baristas' college education.
Which
Starbucks does do.
Yeah, they are paying for their
a little
education.
bit. A little bit, yeah.
Right.
Well,
I don't
that's
think
America.
I don't think it's because the drinks are more expensive.
No.
All right.
Well, I got a gift card to Starbucks for Father's Day.
Better use it up.
So the value of that is going down.
You better use it while there's still money on it. Yeah. Otherwise, they'll say, "Do you have another card? This one won't cover your latte." Arthur, you do us proud by coming in every Tuesday. Thank you so much. Good to see you again. All right.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Now, fix this grease thing before you come back next time. Okay.
Okay.
Next week we want to.
I think we'll be done with it.
We'll be done with it?
It'll all be sorted out.
Something else will happen in America and probably stop paying attention.
We'll be tired. We'll be tired of talking about it, that's for sure. Arthur Delaney, and I'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000. I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately I've been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Igor Volsky at the top of the next hour from Think Progress.
You know, Malia Obama and Sasha Obama, they're not so young anymore, Bill. They're growing up. Malia Obama, who turned 17 just a couple days ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
She has been spotted in Brooklyn, and people are wondering, it looks like she might be an intern on the set of HBO's TV show Girls, the show by Lena Dunham.
Yeah.
Very popular show. It looks like she's interning there. So it's a big, it's a very grown-up show.
But
pretty risque.
Yeah.
The girls are getting around.
Yeah, they are, man.
Yeah, she's up in Brooklyn, and Sasha was in Vancouver for the Women's World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're young women now.
They're growing up.
And Malia has a driver's license, as we know.
Scary.
Yeah, seems totally about town, so yeah. Good for them. Yeah, they've done, I think, a great job of raising their girls
Looks like
in the
it.
White House. Yeah, absolutely. Let's come back to Dr. Igor Volsky from Think Progress.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of
the city of Detroit, all of us. And then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor's allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old. And I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where we're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Feel the burn. 7,500 plus people in Portland, Maine last night for Bernie Sanders. Man, he is on a roll. Hello, everybody. And so are we. Tuesday, July 7, The Bill Press Show. We're here with you everywhere on this great land of ours, either on your local progressive talk radio station or on Free Speech TV. As we start out here from our studio on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building. Good to see you today, and thank you for joining us. We'll tell you what's going on here in the Capitol, either this side of the down at the Capitol itself or down at the White House. We'll tell you what's going on around the country and around the globe. You tell us what it means to you by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. And if you do so, you have a chance to talk to the one and only Igor Volsky, director of video, if you please, and contributing editor for Think Progress. Hello, Igor.
Good morning, Bill.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Prince Igor. Everything good?
Everything great.
Did you have a good 4th of July?
Good, rainy 4th of July, but ate some delicious barbecue food. It celebrated America's 239th birthday in style, as it should be.
Yeah.
Celebrating.
And thanks to you, we were able to celebrate our 10th anniversary on Thursday. You were not here, but your presence was felt.
Good.
Do we have
as
that?
It should be.
Yes, we still.
Yes.
We still have the bottle.
Dipped into the ocean vodka that you brought us for
the
our 10th
beautiful
anniversary.
oceanic sphere.
This is wonderful.
No,
very smooth.
No, absolutely.
You want a screwdriver? I'll make you one. We still got some OJ back there.
Well, we are about to talk about Donald Trump, so it will help.
We had to pick Peter up off the floor. It was pretty bad.
I had a bit of a day on Thursday.
But we celebrated. But thank you for helping with the celebration. Igor is here, and I'll tell you and plus, I'm sorry, didn't mean to ignore the rest of the team.
Did they bring you vodka?
Good point.
Yeah. By the way, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Jamie Benson, ready for you to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS and Monty Chancellor, our videographer for the day with Cyprian out, and this crowd last night for Bernie is just, we had 2,500 plus, the largest crowd yet in Iowa, the largest crowd of the entire campaign in Madison, Wisconsin, largest crowd maybe ever in Portland, Maine, 7,500 last night, and Bernie talking again about, economic populism and problems facing middle-class Americans today, particularly young people. Here he is.
For young people who have graduated high school or dropped out of high school, who are between the ages of 17 and 20, if they happen to be white, unemployment rate is 33%. If they are Hispanic, unemployment rate is 36%. If they are African American, real unemployment rate for young people is 51%.
Wow. I mean, really shocking. But, and Bernie gets up there. He gave a 75-minute speech in Council Bluffs, Iowa. You know, it's not like fun and games with him. He's not up there telling jokes. I mean, he's just laying it out. And people love it.
Look at who is speaking so clearly to minorities in this country. Old white guy from Vermont is speaking directly to African Americans in this country and saying, we're not doing a good enough job to get you back to work.
And as Larry Cohen from the former president of Communication Workers of America told us yesterday, you know, that it's this economic populism, but it's who Bernie is. I mean, this has been his message for the last 50 years. You know, he's not inventing something to run for president on. He's just talking about what he's always talked about.
One of the amazing things that you're now hearing as his campaign is being covered, as these crowds are shocking a lot of reporters, is this idea that his insistence on not going negative is actually a big negative for his campaign. Why isn't he going negative against Hillary? He needs to distinguish himself from Hillary.
Yeah.
Of course, ignoring all of these policy issues that he's bringing up, that's bringing all these people out, and again going back to the horse race and asking, why isn't he attacking Hillary?
Yeah. Because that's what the media wants.
That's what they want to hear about.
Yeah. But, you know, Bernie has said from the beginning, that's not the kind of campaign he's going to run.
It's not negative enough.
He has never run that kind of campaign. And we mentioned in his last run for re-election to the U.S. Senate, he did not spend one dime on any advertising. Not only did he not run any negative campaigns, he didn't run ads, rather. He didn't run any positive ads. He didn't spend a dime on radio or television. He won with 71%.
Yeah, and you see that the Hillary folks aren't talking about him, and I think that's an indication that they're scared of him. They don't want to get into a back and forth with Bernie. That be the kind of framework of the campaign, so they're staying quiet about him.
Except that yesterday, Jennifer Palmieri, whom we know,
yes,
from Center for American Progress days, did say that yes, they're worried about it.
Oh. Except she said, okay,
no,
great.
Seriously. I don't know Igor.
Oh, man.
Yeah, all right.
It was true until yesterday.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jen.
Worried about it, and that he might be able to win Iowa, which would be a setback. And, of course, on the other side, let's acknowledge the big news that Hillary Clinton has agreed to give her first interview of the entire campaign.
That's right,
What a contrast.
Yes.
Right?
To CNN she goes.
There she goes. All right, we got lots to cover here with Igor. Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund being along a little bit later. And President J. David Cox from the American Federation of Government Employees will be here as well. But first, all right, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories.
Yes.
So you know it's July, right? It's a little warm out. New York Times has a story this morning. You know, in Boston, there's still snow out there. There's still snow and ice. Now, it's not snowing in Boston, but all that snow that they got over the winter, they had a record 110.6 inches of snow. It hasn't gone away yet. There are still mountains of trash encased in ice that have been slowly melting that are not gone yet. It's almost gone, but the New York Times, I'm going to tweet this out at BP Show. There's still
They found the snow.
There's a picture of the snow the ice that's still melting off of this pile of trash and debris that's encased in ice that's slowly melting. Is that not crazy?
Oh, that looks beautiful.
Doesn't that look just horrifying? I'll tweet it out. Make sure you're following us at BP Show. I'll send it out here in a second.
It melts before the next snow starts.
You would hope that they would have that. Yeah.
But at this rate, who knows?
To Bristow, Oklahoma, where a man walked into a Walmart wearing...
Sounds like a joke, doesn't it?
I'm already laughing.
He was wearing a gun and a bulletproof vest, but he wasn't there to rob the place. Well, he was there to rob the place, but he didn't hold anybody up. He walked in and said that he was with the Loomis Armored Car Company. He was there to pick up their deposit. So they gave it to him.
No.
$75,000.
No.
They gave to him. He walked outside, got into his Chevy Malibu, and drove off. They had no idea that there was a problem until 30 minutes later when the real armored truck driver from Loomis Armored showed up to pick up his delivery.
Didn't they see there was no truck out front?
They didn't see that there was no truck out front. They knew that someone was supposed to come pick it up, and he showed up about 30 minutes before the real person was supposed to show up. They are still looking for the man, but he made off.
Sounds like an inside job, too.
He made off with $75,000. and we're still basking in the glow of the Women's World Cup. The United States women won that, but
the most watched soccer game of all time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, here's the problem. Some people are upset, including Representative Carolyn Maloney, Democrat from New York, because do you know, it turns out that all of the women that are on the team, they will receive about $2 million per player for the victory.
And they won. Yeah, they won.
And they won.
$2.8 million.
Yeah, they won. The men, Germany got $35 million. And if you lose in the men's tournament, if you go out in the first round, you get $8 million. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy here between how much the men and the women are getting paid
teeny
by a lot.
A couple million. It's a couple million.
If you lose in the men's tournament, you get $8 million. If you win in the women's tournament, you only get $2 million.
That's sad.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
Isn't that terrible? Carolyn Maloney spoke up, wrote a letter to FIFA yesterday and said this is not fair. They need to examine this. They need to have some equality out there.
Well, as if FIFA wasn't screwed up enough.
Not to mention, and I've said this for a long time,
that's outrageous.
Women's soccer is better than men's soccer. It's more entertaining. It's more skilled. I'll watch a women's soccer game 10 times before I watch it.
I watch some of the game on Sunday.
And you don't even watch sports.
I don't even know what sports is.
I don't even know.
Why aren't they dribbling, I ask Brian. But
Why
no,
don't they
I
dunk
watched
the soccer ball.
Exactly. It was very nice. I enjoyed it.
All right, Peter.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Speaking of outrage, you at Think Progress and everybody else has been covering the outrageous remarks by Donald Trump when he announced for president. You would think it couldn't get any worse. It did yesterday when Donald Trump tweeted out a comment about Jeb Bush's wife.
Yeah, he retweeted a comment from somebody. Jeb Bush has to like the Mexican illegals because of his wife. Referring, of course, to his wife, Columba, who is from Mexico. They met in Mexico when he was down there.
He took down the tweet.
Deleted it.
But
I have to say,
still sent it out. I mean, what?
When he announced for president, when every 4 years he makes this big deal about running, I always say, why are we covering him? Why do we have to do this? It's such a sideshow. It's such a circus show. But then I realized, particularly in this election, that his comments have really become the litmus test for the Republican Party. That these guys and gals took so long to condemn Donald Trump when they were asked about it. And it was easy from his very first announcement speech to say, this guy's crazy, ignore him, and some of that spotlight would go away. But by waiting weeks and weeks and weeks, and I'm looking at you, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, Lindsey Graham, who finally condemned Donald Trump and everything he has to say about Hispanics and Mexicans, finally, after weeks, but it took them so long. And it really speaks to the fact that they're afraid of alienating parts of the Republican base, that parts of the base believe what Donald Trump says, that it resonates with them. And they're so scared because there's no clear front runner. There's every misstep can be a problem for your candidacy. They don't have the spine, the leadership, the moral authority to say this is garbage. And even if I lose, I'm not going to win like this. It's taken them this long. It's become a large issue, and it's all their fault that Donald Trump is relevant.
Amen, amen, brother. I just pulled up on the screen here my column in The Hill newspaper today. It's time to dump Trump. And I make the point that, when he made these comments, immediately the corporate community responded negatively, strongly, took decisive action. Univision did, NBC Universal did, Macy's did. Peter, you went through a whole list of other companies that just dropped their sponsorships or whatever. And the only Republican who spoke out at that time, when he first made the comments, was Ted Cruz.
In support of him.
Who said, I agree with him on immigration, and I like the fact that he's bold and brash, is what he said. It was 2 weeks later, not until this past weekend, 2 weeks later, we hadn't heard from any of the Republicans, and then suddenly they all started saying, for the reasons that you pointed out, maybe we'd better say something. So then you had Jeb and Marco Rubio and Rick Perry and Rick Santorum, all saying, well, he doesn't speak for us, and we don't agree with him on all kinds.
We wouldn't necessarily put it that way.
The official Republican Party, this is the point I make in my column, and I did on the show yesterday. He's still a Republican Party candidate for president. A month from yesterday, August 6th, he'll be on stage in the Republican debate. And so why doesn't the Republican Party just say, hey, guess what, dude? We don't want you. You are not going to be a part of our Republican debate. They could do that. Democrats never accepted Lyndon LaRouche.
Oh, my.
I mean, he ran, right?
Very true, yes.
He ran as a Democrat. You never saw him on stage. They wouldn't let him on stage. The Republicans are basically saying, well, if you're one of the top 10 in the polls, then you're on stage. Don't they stand for... I'm coming back to your point. Don't they stand for anything?
This is becoming a pattern for them. You saw after the Charleston shooting, they took a long time to recognize that it was a racist shooting. They took a long time to call for the removal of the Confederate flag, because none of them are seizing on these key moments in a campaign, these unscripted moments where you have a real opportunity as a presidential candidate to lead the country, to lead your party. They're too afraid and they're too scared of what the politics looks like, because in both cases, elements of their base could be alienated, and they would rather not take that risk until it's too late, until it's safe. It's safe.
Sure. Charleston was such a moment. I believe the Supreme Court decision on same-sex marriage was such a moment. The Donald Trump comments were such a moment. And
they can't win the presidency unless they grow the tent, expand the base, bring more people in, and so far they're doing none of that. They're small.
This is part of the problem with a guy like Donald Trump, right? Is we can all sit and look at him and mock him and make fun of the crazy statements that he makes, which are all valid, but his comments about Mexico sending us their rapists and murderers, that's got legs. There are people who agree with him. There are a lot of people who agree with him on that. That's why the Republicans can't really distance themselves from it, is because their base agrees with him.
And that's why they block any attempt at immigration reform, because they don't want to get rid of this issue. They've been using this issue to fan hatred for the last 30 years.
It's a great issue for them. It's terrible.
22 minutes after the hour with Igor Volsky, we are solving the world's problems.
We're getting rid of Trump.
Yeah. Dump Trump. Check out my column on The Hill, thehill.com. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
my beauty,
my power.
My life.
but I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired.
Tapped. And tied.
Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Whoa, 27 minutes after the hour, we're going to talk Greece with CNN Money's Heather Long at the half hour right now. Continuing with Igor, Volsky and Igor, we had talked about a missed opportunity, as Charleston being one of them. So yesterday, the state senate in Columbia, South Carolina, voted 37-3 to take down the flag. But Senator Lee Bright
this is good.
fought to the end, right? And the way he decides he's going to win this debate is by moving from the flag to same-sex marriage. Here he is on the floor.
I heard our president sing a religious hymn, and then Friday night, I watched the White House be lit up in the abomination colors.
In the abomination colors, right. So
that evil rainbow.
Yes.
Yeah. The South has to rise again now against same-sex marriage. I mean, God.
Oh, man. Talk about offending, like, every constituency all at once, all together. The flag and same-sex marriage and people who love rainbows. Man, he's not getting reelected next time.
Look at that rainbow in the sky with those abomination colors up there on the sky.
Bring those down. Forget the flag. Down. Bring the colors
down. Bring that rainbow down.
That's right.
Abomination.
Talk about people belonging in music.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
He belongs in music. Igor, thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you, Bill.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
Crime Advisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada! What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry. Hungry for guns.
I understand that crimeadvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow, crimeadvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
crimeadvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Tuesday, July 7. The Bill Press Show brought to you today by AFGE. The good men and women of AFGE under President Lee Saunders, the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country. For more information about their good work making America happen, go to their website at afscme.org, afsme.org. It's the lead story in the Washington Post this morning, the lead story in the New York Times this morning. The lead issue in our White House briefing yesterday is what's happening in Greece and what impact on the United States and our 401k, Ks, I guess I should say. Heather Long from CNN Money joins us this morning on our newsline. She's been covering this issue. We've talked to her once before. And Heather, it's good to have you back.
Good morning. Yeah, it's interesting. We're chatting. Right now, the European finance ministers are meeting. So they started their meeting at 7 a.m. this morning. And then you'll have all the European leaders will begin meeting at noon today. So this is very real right now.
Oh, wow. It is very real. So what is the purpose of the meeting to try to come up with a new plan for Greece. What's the impact of the vote on the referendum then?
That's right. The best way to think about this is now it's the minister's turn from other countries in Europe to decide, do they want to keep Greece in or not? Do they want to keep talking, keep the discussions going, or have they just said, enough is enough, we've lent you enough money, we're ready to kick you out? You don't seem to want to be here anyway after you resoundingly voted, no, we don't want to talk anymore in the Greek referendum on Sunday.
So far, has it been mainly Germany carrying the freight?
Definitely. They also hold the most debt of Greece, so they have the most at stake here. Mm-hmm. And you can see that their stock market has been one of the ones that's been down the most on this issue.
Whoa. And what options does Greece have? And I mean, in a sense, they almost, well, take it or leave it, but I guess their vote on Sunday said they're willing to leave it, huh?
It really is two horrible options. You're talking about a country, we're looking at the numbers yesterday, they're basically in the equivalent of America's Great Depression. Their economy is in the tank. They have massive unemployment of about 25%. Again, these are numbers that America saw in the Great Depression, to put it in context. And whether they stay in the euro or whether they leave it, it's not going to improve anytime soon. It was interesting to look at the vote, because what you saw in Greece on Sunday is a lot of the people who voted yes, that they wanted to stay in the euro, tended to be the better off people and also the elderly, a lot of retirees. They actually think they might be better off if they stay with the euro. They kind of, the devil they know, if you will. Right. Whereas it was the young people, these massive amounts of unemployed people who said, look, we've been trying these European plans. We've been through two big bailouts, two big prescriptions from Europe where they're telling us to make all these cuts to government, and we're not any better off. So maybe we should try our chances going our own way, getting away from Europe.
I don't know enough about it to know how I would have voted, but it does seem that, I mean, Germany particularly, again, some other countries, I guess, as well, they have pumped a lot of money in the last 5 years into Greece, haven't they?
Huge amounts. You're talking about over 200 billion euros of bailout money.
And what happened to all that money, and what did they do with it in Greece? It certainly didn't lift their economy.
No, it hasn't. A lot of people have been asking me, well, how did Ireland and Spain, they were in debt crises too. Right. Why aren't they, how'd they get out? And I tell you, the key for them was that they were able to get their exports going. So a lot of times what happens is a country, they fall into economic hardship and they're able to kind of grow their way out of their problems. But Greece just never got that jump start. It never ended up, tourism is still one of the huge industries in Greece, a little bit with shipping, and they just weren't able to find that catalyst to start growing again. Right. And so their problems just seem to get bigger and bigger. Now, to Greece's credit, they have made some real government cuts. It's just the problem was they were so overspending, and they were spending about 10% more money than they had kind of around the time of the financial crisis. So they have now more or less balanced their budget, but you can imagine the cuts that they had to make to do that.
Right. Heather Long is our guest from CNN Money. She's their markets and economy editor, and you can follow her good work throughout the day at CNN.com. So is it important? What difference does it make whether Greece stays in the Eurozone or not? The White House yesterday, Josh Earnest told us that the administration's position is this is basically up for the Europeans to figure out, but that we'd like to see them remain part of the Eurozone. Why is that important?
I think it's more political than economic, to be honest, because from the U.S. perspective, you're talking about an economy of Greece that's about the size of Indiana. So it's important, but that's not going to shake the global financial economy, probably not in the United States. But from a political standpoint, it's been interesting. You've seen a lot of headlines that who else is Greece talking to? Sure, they're talking to Germany, they're talking to Europe, but they've also been talking to Russia. And so there's a lot of sort of concern about, will Greece, if it leaves the euro, they're going to look for new allies, political and financial, and that could grow Russia's dominance in the region.
I see. Right. Now, and then the bottom line comes to People thought the market was really going to crash yesterday because of the news of the vote in Greece. Didn't happen, did it?
No, it didn't. I think it's kind of wait and see mode, as boring as that sounds.
Yeah.
People really aren't sure right now if Greece is going to stay in or not. And so I think every little smoke signal, it's almost like watching when they choose a new pope. You know, every sign of a signal coming out of these meetings today is going to be read, and you'll probably see some market gyrations throughout today and tomorrow as people try to sort out. I think, too, look, markets don't like uncertainty, but the reality is we haven't seen a country exit the euro. You know, we haven't seen this level of default since Argentina in 2001, 2002. So people aren't quite sure how to read this yet, and trying to sort through what it all means.
So in terms of worrying about my 401k, not to worry, huh? Relax, is that the word?
That's definitely the word on the street. I think it's going to be a rough couple of weeks, but the reality is, as a U.S. investor, particularly if you're diversified, you've got money in the United States, but you also have money in other countries around the world, you're probably going to be fine in the long run. And if anything, people are saying this could be a buying opportunity. Keep in mind that European stocks overall are actually having a great year. You know, even Germany's stock market's still up over 10%, better off than the United States stock markets are right now. So, you know, even if it goes down a little bit, it's still a pretty good position of strength.
All right, if I can switch just a second, and I've every once in a while, with all this talk about Greece, which really, you know, this is dominating the news, maybe because it's the middle of summer and we have a news hole. Maybe that's why. But there's been very little about China. And yet,
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you brought that up.
That's really the big problem, isn't it?
Well, from a financial perspective, yes.
Yeah,
from the economy perspective, we've written a couple of articles about that. Forget Greece. If you want to be worried about your 401k or if you want to be worried about the global economy, China is a much bigger kahuna right now. You're looking at a stock market that is down over 25%. You know, again, big drops. We call that a bear market in financial terms. And the other problem is the banks. I mean, everybody keeps saying, is this a Lehman Brothers moment with Greece? Well, the thing is, everybody knows Greece has been in the dumps. So people have limited their exposure, other banks and other financial institutions. That is not the case with China. And if you look, the United States has a lot more ties to the banking system right now in China than we do to Greece. Yeah. And so, you know, as the stock market goes down and there's fears that the real estate has been oversold in China, and as these realities, it's kind of like what happened to us heading into 2007, 2008. You know, people lent too much. They weren't really checking the credit. It was boom times. Nobody was looking under the covers. Well, that's what's happening in China, and now that day of reckoning appears to be closer, and that is a lot scarier perspective.
Yeah, in terms of the global economy, right? I mean, China had much greater impact.
Yes, huge. Yeah. And you're already seeing it. We saw oil plunge yesterday. Partially it was on a little bit about the Iran nuclear deal talks that are going on, but it was also, you know, China is a huge buyer of natural resources, and as their economy starts to slip, that's having big repercussions.
Well, I hate to take too much of your time, but there's one more question. Since we're talking about problem countries, you got to talk about Puerto Rico, I guess.
Yes.
Are they going to get will Congress, do you think, give them the authority to declare bankruptcy, like Detroit?
Well, we were talking about this morning. My take on this, and this is just my take, but I think realistically, no way. You were talking about a bill in Congress right now that was introduced by the Puerto Rican, I think it's called Rep at Large, and it has 0 co-sponsors. Nobody wants to touch this thing.
Right.
You also have, think about it, a very Republican-led legislature right now, and the investors do not want this. The investors and the banks largely would be very against this. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle. Now, I will say the one thing that interests me is that Jeb Bush, 2016 candidate, very prominent from Florida, has come out and voiced his support for giving Puerto Rico basically what the rights that every other municipality and state has. So that is interesting to me.
right.
I think it's notable that Marco Rubio has not taken a stance. If he takes a more bold stance, that may begin to at least get people talking and thinking in Congress. But right now, no way.
Jeb Bush's support is not enough to get a bill through Congress.
I would agree with you there.
Yeah. No, I can see that nobody would want to touch this for sure. But God, what a great roundup, Heather Long. Thank you so much for your time this morning. All right, you do such great work. Thanks, Heather.
Bye.
Yeah. Heather Long at CNN Money here on the Bill Press Show, CNN.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour, today is the deadline, the new deadline for reaching a nuclear deal in Vienna. Will the negotiators succeed, or will they just end up extending it? Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund will be along with us at the top of the next hour to tell us what's going on, and then President J. David Cox from the American Federation of Government Employees to talk about the latest and the impact on federal workers at the latest big hacking scandal. Talk about scandals. This has been around for a couple of years. Rumors that Bill Cosby, remember, had there were rumors a couple of years ago that he had drugged women in order to have sex with them. Well, yesterday, Associated Press, AP, reported that actually back in 2005, in a court deposition, Bill Cosby admitted that he secured quaaludes with the intent of giving them to young women he wanted to have sex with, and that he gave the sedative to at least one woman and other people. Documents obtained yesterday by Associated Press. So this removes any doubt that's exactly what Cosby was up to. Gloria Allred, attorney from Los Angeles, of course, representing some of the women in this case, said yesterday it's about time that this came out.
Mr. Cosby has been trying to hide this truth from the public for many, many years. But now this truth is out, and I'm very happy that it is.
Happy? I'm not sure any of us are happy that it's out, but what a disgusting human being.
Look, the idea that Bill Cosby was having to do this in his mind, first of all, is so disgusting.
Think about when he was doing this, right?
Yeah.
He was like one of the most popular people in the country, right? Hugely successful with his TV show and his stage show. And
the guy's an icon.
Yeah, an
American icon.
Right.
But the thing that's so gross about this is that he has spent the last year and a half since these allegations really started flying. He spent that whole time
denying it.
He and his lawyers, not only denying it, but calling the women liars, saying that they were gold diggers, insinuating that they were all coordinating some effort to go out and get him and take him down and get his money. They've spent so many hours dragging these sexual assault victims down.
Yeah.
That's so shameful. And then and knowing that he's admitted to doing it.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
And people standing up to defend him, absolutely disgusting. And now we know everything these women were saying, true.
Yeah, and by the way, everything that they say go right along with what he admitted to, right? So their stories add up.
Right.
Which is so heartbreaking to think that people were giving Bill Cosby a platform to bash these women by name. That were making these accusations. It's terrifying that the guy had that kind of power.
What I can't understand, and you touched on it in the beginning, is why he or anybody would feel that they need to drug these women, right, in order to have sex with them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's who knows how you get into the mind of somebody like that. It's a power thing.
Some kind of a power trip, right? But, I mean, from all the stories about rock stars, athletic stars, and movie stars, I mean, it's hardly the case that they don't have enough opportunities.
Right. I think for Cosby,
consensual opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah. It's clear that this is some sort of power or control thing for Cosby, which is really, really unsettling.
Oh, yeah. Again, a disgusting human being. We'll come back to tell you what the president is up to today down at the White House as the Bill Press Show rolls on this Tuesday, July 7th.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Oh boy, big third hour coming up on Free Speech TV. You're going to have to wait until 5 o'clock Eastern to watch, but you can watch it right away on our video stream. Don't forget, youtube.com/Talker, TAWKR-TV. And you're going to want to hear Joe Cirincione, first of all, from the Ploughshares Fund. He will give us the latest on the nuclear negotiations with Iran. And then President J. David Cox, head of the American Federation for Government Employees, will be here to talk about how they're going to fight back against that big hacking scandal in the federal government. All of that coming up in hour number 3, so hang in there.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go now, 4 minutes before the top of the hour with Joe Cirincione coming up at the top of the next hour from the Ploughshares Fund. By the way, yesterday, President Obama went over to the Pentagon to meet with the generals and get an update on our strategy against ISIS, how the war against ISIS is going. Josh Earnest began the press briefing yesterday at the White House by giving us a little update that so far, since we started last August with air raids against ISIS targets in Iraq, soon extended a month later to ISIS targets in Syria, we have engaged in 5,100 airstrikes against ISIS targets, of which 1,950 of them are inside of Syria. And you do have to ask, what have they accomplished? ISIS
question.
is still pretty much in charge of northern Iraq and parts of Syria. Anyhow, we'll get into all of that, plus what's happening in Vienna with the Iran nuclear negotiations with Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund. President Obama today and the Vice President get the daily briefing at the White House later in the morning. The President holds a bilateral meeting. This is a historic meeting with the General Secretary of Vietnam. Whoa. Yeah. Talk about history. Making history at the White House. Big meeting today. Then this afternoon, he meets with the Secretary of Defense, and the Senate Democratic Caucus comes down to the White House to meet with the President tonight. We have our press briefing at 12:30 with Josh Earnest.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night. And I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, The state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Feel the burn. 7,500 people in Portland, Maine last night feeling the burn. Out for Bernie Sanders. I'm telling you, he's drawing huge crowds everywhere he goes, catching on. Hello, everybody. Tuesday, July 7th. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. The Bill Press Show from Washington, D.C. That's where we are heading. Or that's where we are, heading out to you all across this country on your local progressive talk radio station. Good to be with you on the radio this Tuesday morning. And good to see you on TV, Free Speech TV, and worldwide on our video stream, Talker TV. You will be very glad you're with us today because we have the great joy of welcoming back to the program one of our favorites, a real member of the team here. Joe Cirincione is his day job is president of the Ploughshares Fund. His real job is the foreign policy guru for the Bill Press Show.
Before 9 a.m.
Yes.
This is my job.
Hello, Joe.
Nice to be back.
How you
Bill.
doing? Nice
great.
to see you, too. You're looking good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Enjoying this summer weather?
It is a moist one out there today.
Yeah, it's really
nice.
started.
And I got a cup of coffee next door at
down at Peregrine.
Peregrine, and I tweeted it out. And
saw that.
I immediately got some very nice emails from some of your fans who say they watch you every day, and
Nice.
offering me coffee at various spots around the country.
All right.
Nice.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. It's too bad you weren't here last Thursday, Joe. We celebrated our 10th anniversary of the show last
congratulations.
Thursday.
You know how we celebrated?
Yes, you would have enjoyed this. Yes. Well, the first hour, which is not the times, but the first hour, we had mimosas.
Oh, wonderful.
6 a.m.
There you go.
6 a.m. mimosas. What the hell, right?
Now, the second hour, we had to switch. We had
screwdrivers. Progressing here.
But you stayed with the orange juice.
Yeah. It's breakfast.
The third hour.
Okay.
The third hour.
Bloody Marys.
No. Close.
That would have been good, though.
We
should have thought of that.
Martinis.
Oh no!
Martinis in the third hour.
Can you do that on radio? You can.
No,
we tried.
It's illegal.
Yeah. I don't recommend it. By the way.
God. Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Joe with us as well as Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy, team press here, right?
Hey,
Yes, sir.
good
Here we
morning.
are.
Jamie Benson on the phones, and I started to say Cyprian Bolt. Nope, Cyprian's out. Monty Canceller here as our videographer for today. So, Joe, I just have to tell you, I mentioned this to the gang earlier this morning. My favorite story of the day yesterday. You have a couple of grandchildren, don't you?
I do. Twin boys.
2 boys,
Yeah.
right? 2. Okay. So we have 5. Joe, we might as well give up. We will never catch up with Boyd Packer. Okay, this is. I know you saw this story in the New York Times yesterday. Mr. Packer, God rest his soul, was a very prominent Mormon. He was the head of their 12 apostles they've got or whatever. And he passed away at the age of 90, leaving behind, Joe, 10 children.
Okay.
He and his wife had 10 children.
Busy man.
60 grandchildren. 60 grandchildren.
60 grandchildren.
Right. No, doesn't stop there.
That's a birthday every week.
Are you ready for this? 103 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
Imagine.
Wow. What a tribe.
So Peter added up, that's 175 if they go out to dinner. You know, it's like,
separate checks.
Yeah, exactly.
The Packer party for 175.
Yeah. Be fruitful and multiply, but Jesus, man, slow down a little bit.
So we go on family vacation. We have to rent a house big enough for 11 people.
Yeah.
Right? Our kids and our wives, our boys and our wives, and 5 grandchildren, and Carol and I.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 175. They'll take over the Waldorf Astoria.
Yeah, exactly. Look at that entire hotel.
Unbelievable. All right. Hey, we got lots to talk to Joe about on serious matters about ISIS and about what's happening with the Iran talks, and we'll get right to it. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Joe, you got your cup of coffee from a local chain here, Peregrine Espresso. But if you go to Starbucks, you're going to be paying more for your drinks. Beginning today, they are raising the price of their drinks. It's going to range between 5 cents to 20 cents for their different drinks. So it depends on what you want to get. The price for a large cup of coffee in most of their U.S. stores now will cost $2.45.
But they've gotten us used to this, haven't they?
They sure have.
Nothing. You pull out a $5 bill to buy a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It used to be a quarter.
Yeah, no, not anymore, man. Not anymore. We go to Washington State, where the Washington State Liquor Control Board released some numbers yesterday. Now, the Liquor Control Board is the group in Washington State that is responsible for overseeing the state's marijuana industry. You know, it's legal there. They have their dispensary where you can go buy it. And they unveiled that they have pulled in more than $70 million in taxes during the first year of legal and regulated marijuana sales in the state of Washington. $70 million.
It's going to spread. California's got to go legal.
Oh, yeah.
There's just too much money out there.
More and more people. Colorado had, just way above and beyond what they predicted they were going to make in tax revenue. It's big. It's big business.
Here it comes.
And the 286th most popular name in the United States for girls is Elsa. Now, here's the reason that's interesting. It's the first time since 1917 that the name has ever been in the top 500, and people are pointing to the fact that that's one of the lead characters' names in the movie Frozen, the Disney movie Frozen, Elsa. So people are naming their little baby girls Elsa more than ever before. Again, the only time it's ever even been in the top 500 was 1917, and then it just dropped off. So here we are, almost 100 years later, and it's back in the mix and rising. So
Walt Disney,
little baby Elsa's running around.
Why don't they just name them Frozen?
Yeah, right. Right. Or what are the other characters from that movie?
I've seen it, but don't ask me.
There's that snowman character, Olaf, that snowman.
Olaf.
Olaf?
Yes, Olaf.
I don't think Olaf is coming back. I don't think Olaf is going to make a run here.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Yes. Joe, I want to start where we started with the White House briefing yesterday. Josh Earnest coming out to announce the president was going to the Pentagon to meet with his generals to review the latest strategy against ISIS, which they still call ISIL. And he pointed out that this marks 5,100, as of this point, 5,100 airstrikes against ISIS targets, of which 1,950 were against targets inside of Syria.
Yeah.
Okay. My question is, what did we get for all those airstrikes?
Not much, but we have gotten something. And this is the conundrum here for this. So we're a little over a year into this battle. The president, the military chiefs have warned us it was going to take years, and sure enough,
as the president did again yesterday.
And sure enough, the victory is nowhere in sight. But we do have successes, and the president mentioned some of them. And on the front page of the Washington Post today, there's a good example of this, a sort of surprising success just in the last week of the Kurdish forces operating out of Turkey, taking vast swaths of territory away from ISIS. They were in a battle for the border town of Tal Abyad. They thought this battle was going to take weeks. It took a couple of days. ISIS just fled in disarray. The Kurds advanced over 30 miles into Syria now. They now control a vast swath of the Syrian-Turkish border, which is a very good thing for all the refugees there, which is excellent. And they're within striking distance, about 30 miles from the self-declared ISIS capital of Raqqa. But here's the problem. Raqqa is Arab, and these are Kurds. And this is the fundamental problem facing this strategy. If the Kurds advance towards this Arab town, the Arabs are going to flock into ISIS. And you hear people saying this to stop the Kurds from establishing Kurdistan. And so while a military success is within sight, the ethnic divisions make it impossible.
Which speaks to the headline in the Washington Post. There's a sign of strength of Kurdish forces, but weakness of the U.S. strategy.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because we don't have the parallel, if you will, Arab forces on our yet trained.
Right. So a year after we announced that we're going to start arming more Syrians to fight ISIS,
the so-called moderate Syrian rebels.
There's about 200 of them. So it's a year later, you have about 200.
That's great.
And the trouble is, very few of the Syrians, the secular Syrians, the non-ideological Syrians, want to join to fight ISIS. They want to fight Assad. So they don't want to enlist in this. Similarly, you go over the border to Iraq, and there you have some successes, but the Sunni-based Iraqi army is still in disarray. The Shia militias are meeting with success and repelling the ISIS, but ISIS is in the Sunni areas. So if the Shia militia advance, again, it swells the ranks of ISIS. So these ethnic divisions are crippling the U.S. strategy.
And the Shia and the Sunni cannot get together against a common enemy.
Partially, somewhat, and you see it in some battles, but not enough.
There was a story this morning that here it is, Iraq preparing to take back Ramadi.
Yeah.
Right? Within a couple of weeks, they're going to do a major offensive against Ramadi.
Yeah, and they've announced this, and they've been preparing for it, and they're trying to have a big battle, and this will be a big showdown.
So if I'm head of these Iraqi forces, and I'm planning a big attack to take back Ramadi, why am I sending out a press release today saying, we're going to do this in 2 weeks? Isn't this sort of like, aren't you supposed to keep these, like, when we invaded Normandy, right, in World War II, we didn't exactly announce it to the world before we arrived.
No, you had all kinds of fake operations to distract the Nazis.
Right.
That's right.
So what's this all about?
Well, partially it's hard to hide the fact that they're assembling forces, and partially it's to build up morale. Not much is happening, but they're saying, hey, something's going to happen. We're going to do this. And partially it's to rally the troops themselves, to get them into the battle, to draw them in, which has been a core problem facing the Iraqi army.
And partially it's because they're just dumb.
Well, if they win, it won't be so dumb. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
I'm sorry, editorial comment there. I want to get to Iran, but first I have to ask you, this is a today thing. President Obama today is meeting at the White House this morning with the Vice President and the General Secretary of Vietnam. First time ever in the White House, the head of Vietnam. Historic meeting.
A surprisingly big moment, and it's kind of unusual that this hasn't happened. I mean,
when they announced this yesterday at the White House, everybody went, whoa.
Yeah, we left Vietnam 42 years ago, 1973. We withdrew from there. North Vietnamese win the war. No way to sugarcoat this. They win the war, unify the country, and things that we never thought would happen are happening. The Miss Universe pageant was held in Ho Chi Minh City. Vietnamese welcome the people who bombed them, us, back in the spirit of friendship and reconciliation. John McCain shot down, POW for months and months and months. Back, reconciliation. They're one of our largest trade partners in the region.
I think
so. This move makes a lot of sense.
Trading with them, I think it's 10 years now or so. But,
yeah.
And I think that's what this meeting is partially about today.
Yes.
So my question is, if Vietnam today, Cuba tomorrow?
Well, as part of a trend. Then president's clearly making a point here. Reconciliation with old foes. People you said never, never, never. Well, here we are, shaking hands, trading, tentative cooperation against Chinese expansion in the area. So Vietnam, Cuba, and right around the corner, Iran.
Right. And by the end of the month, the president announced last week, we will have an American embassy in Havana and a Cuban embassy here in Washington, D.C.
Yes, they've been, I don't know if you've been by, they've been cleaning up the Cuban intersection.
Oh, no, I haven't seen
new paint, new flagpole going up in the front, getting ready to raise the Cuban flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the American intersection building, which is a beautiful building in Havana. And so, we basically have an embassy in Havana. We just haven't called it.
Yeah, just change the plaque out front.
And now there's speculation as to who might be the first ambassador to Cuba. Is your name on the list?
No, it's not. Wrong ethnic identity.
All right, now to Iran. We'll take a quick break and come back with Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund, ploughshares.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, President J. David Cox from the American Federation of Government Employees in studio with us in the next half hour. We're here with Joe Cirincione from the Ploughshares Fund, ploughshares.org. Again, the English spelling, P-L-O-U-G-H, shares.org. Today is the deadline, Joe, for reaching a deal with Iran to abandon their nuclear weapons program. Are we going to meet the deadline?
No. Here comes the deal, but not today.
But we can extend the deadline.
Why
not?
They have just announced in the last few hours that they are stopping the clock, as they say. So they're stopping the clock to allow for a day, maybe two, of further talks, because they're very, very close. They're down to several key issues on the implementation of the deal, the sequencing of various actions, for example, and clarity on what sanctions will be lifted. There's this issue of the arms embargo that has been declared against Iran. Is that part of the sanctions relief? If so, how does that get lifted, et cetera? Down to the fine details, but these are critical issues, and I think both sides want to take the time to get them right. The U.S. is not rushing to get just any deal. They want a good deal.
And the question of verification, has that been resolved?
Almost completely, including the tricky issue of, from what I hear, the tricky issue of inspections on military sites. You remember the Supreme Leader a couple of weeks ago said, no inspections of military sites. He had an adjective in there, though. No unconventional inspections of military sites. Well, what they've worked out is conventional inspections, the kinds of things that are allowed under the safeguards agreements that the International Atomic Energy Agency conducts, and so something called the Agreed Protocol. So this will be worked out. It won't be anytime, anywhere, but it will be inspections that we need when we need them.
And how about the issue of when the sanctions are lifted? The Supreme Leader, I think, again, wanted all the sanctions lifted on day one.
When the agreement is signed, all the sanctions have to be lifted. Okay? When is the agreement going to be signed? I love diplomacy. I love the way they do this stuff. Yeah, right. Let's look at that word and let's define signed. So it looks like we're going to get an agreement that will be agreed to and it'll start to be implemented, but it won't actually be signed for a couple of months until there's a UN resolution passed, during which time Iran will take steps to implement, start the dismantlement of a big part of most of its nuclear complex. We will take steps to start implementing the sanctions, and we will sync them up at a moment where the agreement is signed.
Speaking of syncing, can Congress sync it?
He's pretty clever this early in the morning. Yes, they can, and there's a lot of people who want to do that. So you heard Senator Corker over the weekend saying, "Don't rush, don't rush." Congress will be the last remaining hurdle. Even after you get agreement from the Iranians, it's not clear you're going to get agreement from Congress.
I know it's not going to be unanimous. It seems to me it'd be very difficult, even for a Republican-controlled Senate.
I think once you see this deal and see how good the deal is, it's going to be very hard to make a legitimate argument against it.
It's certainly good to see you, Joe Cirincione. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure, Bill.
All right.
Thank you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
They called her Little Sanju. She was born in a village at the foot of the Himalayas, the smallest of 7 brothers and sisters.
My family was very poor. To get by, we raised cows and we made small things for tourists out of bamboo. But we were always hungry, and no matter how hard he tried, my father was always in debt. When I was 11, my father told me I had to go to work making carpets. I had to leave with a man who took me to the carpet factory. The broker who took me away got paid, but they never paid my father anything. I made knots from 4 in the morning until 8 at night. There was never a day off. I was always hungry. I cut my fingers while weaving and had to weave with cut fingers. My hands began to look like my grandmother's. I cried every night. I thought the rest of my life would be only this.
It takes 1 million knots to make one 8x10 rug. In the 1990s, 1 million children were enslaved making carpets in South Asia. Then a hero entered the picture. It was you. If you knew how these carpets were made, you would no longer think they were so beautiful. And if you could choose a better rug, your buying power could end child slavery in the rug industry. From that simple idea, Goodweave was born. Here's how it works. To earn the Goodweave label, companies agreed not to employ children. Goodweave makes sure by conducting surprise inspections. When children are found, Goodweave helps them.
2 years ago, a Goodweave inspector named Grona found me in the factory. When I saw him, I was scared, but Grona put his arm around me and told me it would be okay. Grona took me to Hamrogar, a home for rescued carpet kids run by Goodweave. I'm the first person in my family to ever go to school.
Today, thousands of children like Sanju have been educated and rescued by Goodweave. And because you chose the Goodweave label, 3/4 of those million children weaving carpets are now free. And Sanju, with Goodweave's support, she's able to attend her village school and live at home where she belongs. Now that's a beautiful rug that tells a beautiful story. Stand with Sanju. Insist on the Goodweave label.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, what do you say? 33 minutes after the hour. How about it? Tuesday, July 7. Can you believe? It is hot here in Washington, D.C., maybe where you are too. We appreciate your being with us as we come to you live, from our nation's capital, reaching out to you all across this great land of ours on your local progressive talk radio station, of course, and on Free Speech TV nationwide as well, where we're brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees, the good men and women of the AFGE under President J. David Cox. Proud to work for America every day. You bet. Check out more about their about their good work at their website, afge.org, or just ask President J. David Cox, because he's sitting right across from me. We salute you. Thank you for your support, and welcome you back to the program.
Thank you very much, Bill. Glad to be back.
Everything good?
Oh, doing well.
Right.
Had a great July 4th weekend. It was fun here in the city.
Yeah, a little rain.
A little rain, but a lot of fireworks, still a lot of fun.
Yeah. Now, President Cox, I know you're not from South Carolina. Peter is from South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
But you're close enough. North Carolina.
Yes.
Our inferior cousins to the north. I hate to say it, sir. I mean, like having you in here. But,
I know. Trust me. The Carolinas have more than their fair share of struggles.
Yes, sir.
Them's fighting words.
I'll bring you in some mustard-based barbecue next time, and you can bring in your vinegar-based, and we'll fight it out.
What is your take on this debate that started in the South Carolina legislature yesterday about taking down the flag?
Bill, I personally think it's past time to take down the flag. First off, I hear all these history stories. The flag wasn't put up until the 60s as the civil rights movement was starting to take hold in this country. It was put up in defiance of the civil rights movement. We all know that. It is time to take down the flag. It is time to end racism and hate crimes and those type things in this country. And all of us live together and respect one another regardless of our differences, because this is a great country with great people in it.
One of the state senators yesterday, and the vote was 37-3. It was pretty one-sided to take down the flag, 37-3. And one of them said that it was it really a symbol of divided us, symbol of division. No matter what you may, if you may think of it as being historic or history. Do we have that state senator? His name is Senator Vincent Shaheen.
One thing I think we all should agree on by now is that this is a symbol, regardless of what you believe it means, that divides us. And we can't afford to be divided anymore.
Yep, just sums it up.
Very, very clearly. It's been a symbol of division. I mean, let's be real. The Civil War was about division in this country, and the Civil War was about slavery. People have put their twist on it, but it was about buying and selling human beings on the town square, which is just dead wrong no matter how you think about it, and you can't sugarcoat it.
Right. So I think it's just a matter of time, because the House of Representatives down there has to vote next, but they've got to go the right way, and hopefully that'll be resolved pretty soon. But we invited you in, and you were kind enough to come in today to talk about a much more important, I wouldn't say much more important, but a different matter. And that is, we heard a month or so ago about this latest hacking. I don't know whether we're still sure kind of who did it, but into the private information and private files of the Office of Personnel Management here in the federal government. These are federal employees, right? These are your people. And what is the impact, and what's happening because of that? Well,
Bill, it's a very serious issue. It's federal employees and retired federal employees.
Oh, both.
Both. And I, as a retired federal employee, received my letter last Friday informing me that my information had been hacked. And there's two hackings, if you'd have, that went on. First was the Central Personnel Database, which is federal employees and retired federal employees, has their Social Security numbers, information, their marital status, military records, insurance information,
date of birth, all that stuff, right?
All of those type things.
Home address.
Home address. We were informed by the director of OPM that the Social Security numbers, that type of information, was not encrypted, so therefore it was available through the hacking. Then there was another hacking that dealt with the security files for people that have to have security clearances. They fill out a form, I can't remember all the various numbers. It's an 85 or an 86 form that deals with security clearances. And that information was also hacked. And now OPM has found that there is a vulnerability in one of their other systems, EQUIP. So it has not been hacked, but they system down while they do things to prevent it from being hacked. But all total, it's over 10 million people probably.
Whoa.
The number continues to grow.
I originally heard 4 million.
Well, it's steadily grown. It's been a moving target as they've tried to get their arms around the information.
So the combination of the general employees like yourself and then the security level is about 10 million total.
Yes.
Right. Do we have any idea who's behind it? I mean, all the rumors were the Chinese government.
I read in the papers, just like you read in the papers, the Chinese government. I don't know that anyone has totally narrowed it down. AFGE's focus has basically been trying to protect its members, to make sure that, number one, they get registered for the credit monitoring and those type things. And as you're aware, that we have filed a lawsuit against
about that
OPM and against Director Archuleta and against the director of the over there. We believe slow, not been forthcoming. We learned that some of these hacks occurred 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The current offer is for 18 months of credit monitoring, up to $1 million in liability insurance. Well, let's be real. If you are smart enough to be able to hack the computers that has all these millions of federal employees in it, all their information, you're smart enough to read the newspaper that said, well, 18 months and give them $1 million worth of liability and just wait. Whatever millions of where lifetime credit and the insurance happen deterrent information.
Yet that they started to use this information, and what could they do with this? I guess credit card.
The issue is your name, address, social security number, date of birth, who your wife
limited,
or children, or all those type things. I mean, I can apply for all type credit and loans, and identity theft is a common occurrence in this country already. We have, and back to your question, at this point, we have not had anyone that has definitely stepped forward and been able to prove, because you have to drill down into the situation, that this breach actually has brought harm to them.
Relatively recent.
Yes, it is.
In a sense, right. So do you think that the director and the personnel, the people in charge at OPM were asleep at the switch?
Well, I have to be careful in how I say that. I think the people at OPM come and go. Directors of OPM come and go. I think OPM has had serious concerns through the years with their IT systems, with the security systems. This is not new. It's happened on other watches. It's happened on this watch. And part of our lawsuit is dealing with the fact, number one, to compensate employees for the time and the hardship in their own lives for changing bank accounts, things of that nature, but also to enforce the recommendations and the fact that OPM needs to put proper security over its systems and to safeguard that information.
I mean, yeah, it seems to me that one basic lesson here is that if you're entrusting a government agency or anybody, Amazon or whatever, with this information, they've got a responsibility to guard it.
Clearly, Bill, there's been instances where the IG and groups have come in to OPM and said that we recommend that you do XYZ, and OPM would say, thank you very much. We choose not to do that. I mean, let's be real. We live very much in an electronic age. We do have to try our best to put all the security measures that we can in protecting information. That, number one, if somebody's trying to hack your system, you want the alarms to go off that you know that's occurring and that you stop it and you deal with it. And every day systems are vulnerable and you've got to develop new and more improved ways. So Congress certainly has to step up to the plate, appropriate money. OPM has to do due diligence in protecting this information. We're talking about millions of federal employees, and in my own personnel record, yes, my wife's Social Security number's in that. My children were on my health insurance, so their Social Security numbers was in it. 30 years ago, everything was done by Social Security numbers, so all that they're beneficiaries on things. It goes on and on.
And you personally received a letter last week.
I did. I received my letter.
And they were telling you what? Too bad.
Oops, and that I needed to go to the website and register. I did spend a fair amount of time yesterday registering myself for credit monitoring. The company that OPM chose, we have grave concerns over that. They spent a grand total of 36 hours choosing a contractor to do all this work. We've gotten reports of employees coming back with wrong information and things on their listing that they knew was not true and was not them. So certainly OPM needs to do greater diligence in the contractors that they use. This is a serious issue. Many times I'm here with you and we're talking about fun and exciting things, but this is the possibility of millions of federal employees, civil servants that trusted the federal government with their most confidential data, and it's been hacked and it's out there.
Right. Yeah, I had my identity stolen a few years back, and I just remember once I found out that somebody had all that, I mean, I really felt vulnerable because you've no idea what they could do with that information. And this is on a massive scale, up to 10 million federal employees impacted. President J. David Cox here, President of the American Federation of Government Employees. If you happen to be one of those federal employees, or you've had your information hacked where you work or whatever, give us a holler, give us a call. Any questions welcome at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
On your radio, on TV, and online. The Bill Press Show.
All right, 11 minutes before the top of the hour now on Tuesday, July 7. President J. David Cox, President of the American Federation of Government Employees, in studio with us. The AFGE has filed a lawsuit against the Office of Personnel Management, their director and chief information officer, over the breach of information affecting some 10 million federal employees. And President Cox, Mark has a question from out in Chicago on the great WCPT. Hello, Mark.
Thanks for having me. Good morning. My question is, does the lawsuit include the husbands and wives who are going to be affected because all of their information is in the personnel file of the employees who were hacked?
All right, good question, Mark. Let's take your answer on the air, please. Right.
Mark, the way AFG is going after this lawsuit is we're trying to make it a class action lawsuit. That's what we're asking the court system to certify. If they certify it as a class action, all federal employees that would be affected by it would be included. AFGE is trying very, very hard to get family members also included simply because their information was also in the data files that was hacked. So it's a several-step process. When you file the suit, you do have to get it certified as a class action. So we are going after this in several different directions. Gerard and Gibbs is the law firm that we are using, who are very, very reputable, that is working with our own general counsel. On our website, there is information about all of these type things, and there's also a place that you can contact with questions concerning the lawsuit.
Well, it seems that, if husbands, wives, whatever, children are if their personal information is part of that file. Now, I'm not the judge in your case, but it seems to me then that the lawsuit, the protections ought to be there for everybody.
It is AFG's goal to certainly see that everyone is protected in every way that we can. Because I'm not an attorney, I don't want to practice law, but clearly it is our goal to work very, very hard to see that all federal and retired employees, our membership, as well as anyone harmed, their family members from this data breach, would be taken care of. So we are clearly working on that.
All right, Mark, I think that's your answer. So then finally, you just filed this lawsuit. What is the timing? What are you told? When will you, when the legal process?
The legal process
takes
it takes a while to develop it. Obviously, there are two individuals that have joined in this lawsuit with us. Robert Crawford of Indiana, he works for the Federal Railroad Administration, and Adam Dale from Michigan. He formerly worked for the Social Security Administration. So both of these,
your lead plaintiffs, I guess. Right.
Both of these individuals received notice from OPM that their data had been breached, so they are included in the lawsuit with us. And again, I would encourage people, particularly federal employees, go to our website and get information. And if you believe something has gone wrong with you, or your identity's been stolen, or there's some type of breach of your personal information, there is a process process to follow. There are people that's had their identity stolen that happened a year ago that may not be a result of this breach. So we have to, there's a process to go through.
And that website again is afge.org. You're fighting a good fight on this front and many different fronts. President J. David Cox, good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much, Bill. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
All right, and stay cool somehow in this already hot July in Washington, D.C.
Thank you very much.
I'll be right back with a farting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, it was a great 4th of July weekend for everybody but the city of Chicago. In the streets of Chicago, 10 people killed by gunfire over the weekend, including a 7-year-old Amari Brown, another 50 wounded by gunfire. 10 people, more people shot and killed on the streets of Chicago over the weekend than were gunned down in Charleston's First AME Emmanuel Church 2 weeks ago, but we'll never know most of their names. There will be no national media coverage, no huge memorial service, and no presidential eulogy. Shame on us that we take this almost as business as usual and nobody cares. The gun lobby has won again. That's it for today, folks. See you tomorrow.
We'll be looking for you.